Consumer-facing health is so cool. We as people are finally in control of our destiny, if you will, with all of this data. And even 5 years ago, we really weren't.
Try to fix the current system or reimagine something new. Will healthcare ever serve consumers just like me and you? The power's in our hands, but every side's gotta come together. We want the newer generations to get something better. Until we flip the script and talk about what gets prevented. Until we see the change is permanent as if we meant it. Until healthcare is finally consumer-centered. We've got a lot to rap about.
Welcome back to the leading podcast about consumer-centered health. This is more than a show, this is a mission, y'all. As healthcare leaders, we're here to share with you the latest consumer-centered ways that healthcare is being designed, marketed, and delivered. And as consumers yourselves, we want you to understand how these options work and why they might be right for you and your loved ones. Here's what's going down today. First up, we have the Flava of the week about Garmin's meal tracking feature. What can we learn from the way that meal tracking has evolved with AI, and why is it now considered an essential feature of wellness apps? I'll talk about that. Then Stephen Rouse shares the gap in the market that led him to found Savva, why screenings play such a large role in engagement, and what's possible when you unleash AI on your personal medical records. I'm Jared Johnson. Let's get it.
Flava of the week.
Garmin is the latest brand to add AI-enhanced meal tracking to its health app. The smartwatch manufacturer announced the new feature at CES in Las Vegas. According to Matt Smith with Engadget, the food and calorie tracking feature is now available to Garmin Connect Plus subscribers who pay $6.99 a month. It combines AI image recognition with a rich food database, so you can monitor your calories and nutrient intake without leaving the app, and even log some food through its watches. The food tracking works similarly to existing apps like MyFitnessPal, Noom, LifeSum, and many others. Still, Garmin hopes to make its companion app the best place for tracking nutrition without having to leave the app and tying it to your other fitness goals. This makes sense in a few ways. If you already use Garmin to track your exercise, the app can provide a more accurate estimate of your calorie expenditure. It'll personalize it based on height, weight, and gender, which you've already likely entered on your Garmin profile, and it can even offer calorie and macronutrient recommendations tailored to your fitness goals. In addition to the food database, you can use the camera to log food. With AI-powered image recognition, the Connect app makes a generally good guess at what you're eating. You can also create customized meal entries with the correct ingredient quantities, making it easier to track your regular breakfast habits or midday coffee order. Better still, you can monitor nutrition and calorie intake on compatible Garmin watches. You can even log your favorite and recently logged foods from your wrist without needing to use your phone. Voice commands also work on compatible Garmin wearables. What's the consumer lens? First, food tracking is easier than it used to be with all of the AI-enabled enhancements. My favorite is image recognition, even though other apps often need a little help to nail the portion sizes, but that's okay because it's still easier than my friend who for years has tediously logged every calorie and macro by hand. Second, the power isn't necessarily in the food tracking by itself. It's in overlaying it with fitness activity, biomarkers, sleep scores, near real-time glucose spikes, and other data that start to inform your health journey with personalized insights. In Garmin's case, tying calorie intake to exercise goals gives you a super easy number to focus on when crafting your workout plan. With other apps, that might mean seeing nutrition impacts on sleep or weight loss. So bottom line, while meal tracking won't excite those who are passively attempting to engage in healthy habits, it can be a powerful tool when overlaid with other data. And that's important considering connecting the dots between different aspects of wellness is one of the foundations of making health truly personalized. Let's pay attention to how meal tracking by Garmin and others has become an important aspect of whole person health. That's another way that we'll build the healthcare of tomorrow, and that's the Flava of the week. Hey, I'm here with my friend Carol Flagg from Healthcare Now Radio. Carol, you and I have an exciting new partnership that we want to tell people about.
Yep, we'll actually be launching an exclusive new opportunity called Limited Series. And these series will air nationally on Healthcare Now Radio, which, by the way, was named once again with one of the top 10 healthcare shows again in 2025, as well as here on the Healthcare Now Wrap. These series are going to cover some of the biggest topics in 2026, starting with rural health and including the CMS health tech ecosystem, GLP-1s, wearables, and more. So we're really excited about these series because there's a lot to talk about with these topics, which means they are ideal opportunities to create thought leaders in these spaces.
Yeah, Carol, that's what I'm the most excited about, is to really generate more informed, trusted information on these topics. And for those who are interested, spots are extremely limited for Q2 through Q4 of 2026. To get started, just reach out to either of us on LinkedIn, and we look forward to hearing from you. Hey, folks, let's get into the flow. I'm joined today by Stephen Rouse. Stephen's the founder of Savva. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jared. Very happy to be here. As you said, I'm co-founder of Savva AI, and we merge medical records with wearables and allow people to, gain a better understanding of their health.
So your background is one of the more fascinating backgrounds, admittedly, to me, as we've gotten to know each other a little bit. But what would you like our listeners to know about, like, who you are and what you do?
I'm a salesperson through and through. My journey started with pistachios at the wonderful company, hawking pistachios all around the country, and then transitioned to Christmas lights of all things, which took me to Shenzhen, China for many years, growing a company called Really Big Lights, and which of course translates into clinical research and healthcare. Naturally from pistachios to Christmas lights to health tech. And so I've been in the EHR, clinical trials, healthcare space now for about 10 years. And not your everyday, route to something like this at all. Very, very kind of unique. Happy to get more into it if you want to, I tell a Christmas light story all the time. I could talk Christmas lights all day.
Tell you what, let's see if we have time to come back to it, because it's one of the favorite stories I've heard lately. So I do think it's worth kind of diving into the story of Savva itself. And you introduced it as, connecting health data and wearables. And I will tell you, so I still recall sitting at a conference in probably 2015. And it was the first time there was a wearables data company there presenting, 2015. And it was the first time I had heard or thought of the concept of actually doing something besides just checking what at the time I had an Apple Watch, right? So what my Apple Watch is telling me or whatever, to actually have some other concept of what data about my own health could lead me to or help me do in my life. And okay, here we are more than 10 years later. And I feel like we're just now, in the last, 18 months, starting to see what's possible with that data. So with that as background, just knowing this has kind of been a slow burn in this space. And now to see the types of solutions and tools that are available, it's kind of cool to see us actually making good on what first occurred to me over 10 years ago, sitting in a session. So let's start with kind of the origin story here. I think that's useful for those who aren't familiar. There was clearly a problem or multiple problems that you saw in healthcare. It started led you to this journey to start where you are now. Tell us about that. Kind of how did that come about, and why was this the time to build your solution?
It all started, I was living in Utah a couple of years ago. And I had a My Chart with the University of Utah. I had a Cerner account with Intermountain. And then here in the Bay Area, I had multiple Athena accounts from urgent care visits over the course of my life. And one day, I was kind of sitting back looking at my health, talking about an upcoming physical and saying, man, it's really hard to get all of this data in one place. And kind of said, I have to log in and out of My Chart multiple times just to kind of get a clear picture. And I'm, not managing anything serious, knock on wood. And I'm not a 75-year-old with 60 plus years of health data out there. And it's still super fragmented. And so, we set off on this mission to just connect health records and get a direct access to all these health systems and to these EHR systems. And then from there, it's going, okay, well, what other pieces of health, right? I mean, I have an Apple Watch, a Whoop, a Garmin, a Peloton, a smart mattress, a smart scale. Like you said, 10 years ago, maybe we had one wearable. But most people these days, if you do have one wearable, you have more than one, right? And so kind of the same kind of problem. Man, I gotta log in and out of, check my sleep here, check my workouts there, check my running or my skiing in another app. And so kind of going, man, it would be really interesting to have all that data as well as your health record data all in one single place. And so that's really the purpose of why we've set off on this mission, Amit and I, to build Savva. Just one place to connect all those dots and have one unified system that reads it all.
Why was this the right moment? What's changed or evolved that's allowed you to build it?
First and foremost, the regulators, right? The 21st Century ONC Cures Act is an incredible piece of legislation when it comes to consumer health and, gaining access to all of this data, right? EHR companies went from shielding this data and having full ownership of it to not only being able to share it, but being forced by the government to share it, right? And so I think that final guidance in 2022 I think can be credited to a lot of the growth that we're seeing in the space today, as well as, the whole AI craze, right? There's, I think that a lot of people ask a lot of questions. I'm guilty of it on a daily basis. If my son's got something going on with him, I'm Googling or throwing it through an AI tool. What's going on? How can I remedy this? Do I need to go to the hospital? What should we do? And so I think that whole phenomenon is also kind of bolstered, consumer health. And so it was the right time because of the 21st Century O&C Cures Act. And Amit and I had built EHR related companies in the past. As you might recall, right? Our last company was called Protocol First. And we were one of the first companies to go in and actually integrate with EHRs, with Epic specifically, and to work with patient data and extract it outside of hospital firewalls. In those days, to 2018, you had to go through a BAA, a third-party risk assessment, committee approvals, 4 years. And if you're lucky, dealing with a hospital system to get access to that data and actually be able to move it. Because of, recent legislations like the 21st Century O&C Cures Act, you're able to not only, you can get access, a lot quicker than that. And so I think that's really, we've been riding in the wake of that piece of legislation.
As I kind of navigate every day through all the hype, sometimes it's just like a cloud. It's just like a fog around me. And I think, how do I know not necessarily what to trust, but like what's best for me? So are those the types of conversations you have sometimes? And if so, how do you explain that, hey, these things have come a long way. Here's what's different about our solution and just whatever, like what the value is.
There's just on the AI front, right? I think just on the wearables front, like, are you an Oura Ring guy? Are you into Garmin? Do you listen to your sleep number mattress before you listen to your Apple Watch? That's one side of it. And then when it comes to AI, wow. I mean, every day there seems like there's a new, LLM out there and right. And do you trust or like how Grok sounds and feels and its empathy levels versus, what's the Falcon guys? What are they doing? Or what are the Meta and Llama? How is that going? And I think people have choices, right? And they're choosing this for various reasons. Same reason people choose Google Maps over Apple Maps or Waze, right? It's a personal preference. And so I think one big thing, like you said at the end there, that, we're doing to differentiate ourselves is, we choose our healthcare provider. We choose our insurance. We choose our, which doctor to see when and why. And so one thing that we're doing at Savva, I think is very interesting, is we allow users to bring their own AI. When you sign into Savva, you can go with Gemma. You can go with Llama. You can go with Grok. You can go with an on-device LLM or a cloud-based LLM. You can connect Anthropic to GPT and use both of them. We'll tell you, hey, if you're using a cloud-based LLM, I don't know what's happening downstream to that data. And for me personally, I'd advocate for an on-device large language model for that very reason, because it doesn't, ever enter the cloud. And, we've learned things from 23andMe. But, since we give people the choice in healthcare to make all those decisions, why not give them the choice to choose their AI and bring whatever they want into the system to then read their medical records, read their wearables, and be able to, answer and ask those questions.
Can you walk me through the experience for a user in terms of how it works? Somebody's got this in hand now and they're taking a look at Savva. Like, how does that work?
Download an app off the App Store, right? Consumer-facing tool. We allow, for I think a week of a free trial using all the premium features, and the premium costs $5 a year when it's all said and done. The first thing it asks you is, connect to Apple Health Kit. Let Apple Health read all your data, and then we educate you, go to Whoop, go to Garmin, go to your Fitbit, and go to your sleep number mattress. Dozens of these apps connect to Apple Health. So we educate you, hey, just quickly go make sure you're talking to Apple Health, and then we connect to your devices. And you see on a list, right, when you click connect, I'm reading a Whoop band, I'm reading a Garmin Connect connection, I'm reading your sleep number mattress and your Apple Watch. Next, connect to medical records. We have direct access to 355,000 care sites in the United States at launch, not going through HIEs or intermediaries of any shape or form. Direct access, and I could show you I have the app on my phone. You just search UCSF, and it takes you to what they call Epic Hyperspace, and you're looking at my chart within our app, and you log in, and 15 seconds later, we have all your medical records from that institution. The next provider, maybe an urgent care facility, you visited once or twice in your life. Enter your credentials, you're in and out. And then you're done. You're onboarded, and it opens up the fitness screen where we find, trends and a little bit of macro and micro information given all of your devices. And then on the right-hand side, you could go swipe over to the medical side and see all of your visits in chronological order, as well as things about different conditions and procedures and labs that you've received over the course of your life that we're pulling out of EHRs. And then we enable people to ask questions. There's an ask button right in the middle. When was my last doctor's appointment? When is my next medication refill due? Why do I have a headache? Answer, you could ask questions like this, and what it spits back at you is in real time are answers that are rooted in your actual health data.
What are some of the other common actions or insights that a user can expect to get, like once that data is connected?
We run screening. I think one of the coolest things that we're doing is we run screenings for hypertension is a tricky one with current devices and what's happening with blood pressure readings. But we'll pull, all of your most recent labs and after visit summaries and your vitals coming from your devices, and always screen you for diabetes and obesity based off the CDC's guidelines on how they ask those questions. And so maybe you'll get a blood test, or maybe you got a blood test done 6 months ago and you had an infection and they prescribed you some antibiotics. They weren't actually looking. Your physician most likely was not looking for diabetes in that blood data. Just like, okay, yeah, your blood cell count's off. Fire them up with antibiotics, and then you're off to the races. For us, we're sitting there constantly looking at those trends to eventually one day, hopefully not, but hopefully you're healthy. But one day you could get a little push notification. Hey, this most recent blood test, we've noticed a couple trends that you're going in the wrong direction, and you should probably alert your GP or whoever it might be. Go escalate this to a healthcare professional. So that's one big thing. I think that screening, and we're going to add over time more disease groups and therapeutic areas to that. I think that's probably the first and foremost kind of a big differentiator too when you look at some of these other tools we see popping up now.
How is it useful for us to just think of growing adoption as an industry, taking what we're learning inside of healthcare, helping consumers who are outside of healthcare know that there are some phenomenal new tools, this being one of them?
Whoever figures out the answer to that one is going to win this race, if you will, with all the different players in the space. I mean, I don't think I have the right answer for you, Jared. I think, all we can control is, bringing something that we find is valuable. I think that whoever could be it's really hard to sell security and privacy to people. People have been burned enough. Like I just 23andMe, just thinking back to, okay, I did it, and you're never going to sell my data. Well, you had one bad financial quarter, and all of a sudden you're trying to sell my data to Regeneron. It's wow. I mean, people can hide behind privacy policies. They can an acquisition can come along and change the name of everything you put in a privacy policy. And so I think our biggest stance is, we're just trying to be the safe and as responsible with all of this data. And I think first and foremost, that's the most important thing. The more vendors and health information exchange vendors that you work with to gain access to this data, the more out of sight that data becomes. And so, I know I'm kind of taking your question and turning into a privacy and security selling point here, and I'm not meaning to, but for us, it's all we could do is, promise security and safety and stay true by it and do everything that we can to provide insights that make people feel like they're making healthier decisions. And on that level, the context engineering is pretty simple. I mean, health in general can be better managed with better sleep, more exercise, and healthier eating habits. Taking your medication on time would be the fourth one. And so, right, our entire, all of the context and prompt engineering has been, from a holistic preventative health point of view, is all about those three, fundamental pillars to health. Eat better, sleep more, move more. With call to actions to put all this data in one place is one thing, but to say, hey, really focus on these three things, and you should be, whatever you're managing, whether you're a biohacker as healthy as an ox or managing multiple chronic conditions, you're in the same boat. And so I'd say, trust and just kind of staying true to that.
Give me a little insight into the life of a founder. Which side's been harder here? Building the tech itself, like building the platform, or just navigating the complexity of healthcare? You mentioned regulations and, some of the guardrails you have to live within. Like which side of that's more challenging?
I'd say it's the latter for sure. It's easy for me to say. I have a very technical founder. You haven't met Amit yet. He is like a freaky technologist, right? For his whole career, he's come out with a bunch of first-in-class products across the board in health. And so he might be completely different than what I'm saying. But really, it's a stickiness more than anything else. It's, there's not one, and the Calm app is the only app that I think of that has really gone the full mile in terms of a consumer-facing health tool that has reached adoption. Is a lot. If you just are, at a restaurant, if you say the Calm app, there's a pretty good chance there's people in there would know about it, have used it. I'm myself a huge advocate, but no, I'd say it's the latter. It's not necessarily the regulation side, but more, the stickiness and how you differentiate and how you can, prove to people that this is helping you make healthier decisions and bringing value via the technology versus building the technology.
As you've gone along the way, we've talked a lot about the platform itself, but what has building the platform shown you, or what have you observed about how consumers are approaching their health today and how that's changed?
I think a lot of it remains to be seen. I think we're in really early days, not just Savva, but the category in general. Like you said, 15 years ago, kind of, the Nike Fuel Band was the first one that I got all those years ago. And it's just about competing with your friends to move more. And, and then now it's moved into, clinical significance and actually bringing value to have someone live longer or manage their diseases better. And I mean, from my perspective, what an awesome time to be working on something like this, right? From a timing perspective. And I think that all of that remains to be seen. I think that just all we promise is we're connecting the dots, take you from having multiple patient portals and multiple apps, condense all of that in one place and, bring huge value from that. And then, hit you with call to action to sleep better, to eat better, to move more, with the hopes that you can hit your individual goals.
Best case, what does the next 6 to 12 months look like for you?
So 355,000 connected hospitals, doctors' offices, clinics, urgent care facilities in the US today. The very interesting that's happening is what's happening with Europe and the rest of the world with this type of thing. And we have huge plans for the rest of the world with not only EHR integrations, we're working with hospitals in the Middle East and around, France and Germany. And from the perspective of being a patient or a consumer in Europe, they're just catching up, right? If it's early days for us, it's the first day for a European consumer. And so I think we have a lot of work to do with on the EHR side and with connecting to hospitals, as well as we have a way to connect to hospitals that aren't on electronic health records. We have a QR code solution, a completely different set of patents called VIR-Code, which stands for Visual Interoperability Resource, where this is all fine and dandy, but what if you're in rural Montana or even my father here in Sonoma, California, his cardiologist runs on paper. What about these guys? How do you digitize these records? And so, we have a big plans over the next 6 to 12 months when it comes down to integrating with hospitals in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, and places in Egypt and the Philippines and Chile that we've been talking to. And then on the consumer side, we're going to ride that wave that we're seeing. This has been one of the craziest months with GPT health and cloud health being announced. And we're trying just to stay true to ourselves and bring security and privacy into the space here, let people bring their own AI and connect to more AI tools over the next 6 to 12 months. We haven't launched this thing. We're currently at beta with about 1,800 people on the beta list today. And we're about to launch that beta, just working on some of the bring your own AI kind of capabilities to what we're doing. And that's going to be an ever evolving thing for the rest of time as more AI tools come out. I mean, Gemma just was announced, and what an awesome addition that was to the Gemini tool and what's happening with the Google guys. And so, a lot more integrations on both sides and launching this thing on the App Store in the next 6 months for sure.
I'd say we got you on the podcast here at the perfect time as you're just kind of at that launch point, and really look forward to having you on after, post beta, to see where things go, to see some of those additional insights, to see what all it's learning about how to address health behaviors. That to me is what this all comes down to. For us to wrap up this episode, love to ask our guests what gives them hope for the future of healthcare in our country. And maybe it's what you're just talking about, like the potential here. But how would you answer that? Like, what gives you hope for the future?
We as people are finally in control of our destiny, if you will, with all of this data. And even 5 years ago, we really weren't. I think that this transition from, into value-based care is undeniable. And I don't want to get political, but that's coming. It's here to stay. And from a preventative medicine and from a lifestyle medicine perspective, people are reversing forms of diabetes, by eating better and sleeping more and exercising more, which I think is something which, if you said that 10 years ago, you'd be chastised and you'd look like a crazy person. And so I think it's just absolutely, the sky is the limit, and enabling people to access their medical records and to make choices about their own health without going in and seeing a doctor is just the beginning. And, we're gonna increase lifespans. We're gonna eradicate chronic diseases. Everything is buttoned up into this new wave of consumer-facing health. And I think we're on the 5-yard line. On the opposite side of the field, we're still at the very beginning of this, motion, and the next 20 years are all going to be about consumer-facing health tools and informing yourself to make healthier decisions to increase longevity.
I look forward to that. Stephen, thanks for everything you're doing to make healthcare consumer-centered. And with that, that's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Thanks, Jared.